you. This is really a pleasure for me to be here today, and for a number of reasons. Number one, as I sit here and I visit with some of the members, I think back to all the wonderful experiences my family and I have had coming to these events over the past 10 or 12 years. Some of the best memories that we've had during the campaign stops. And also there's some of you that have just become great friends of our families. We never would have had that opportunity if we wouldn't have campaigned and been able to attend these events. The other reason why it's such a great honor to be here today is anybody running for office will tell you the most important fabric of the Republican Party, if you want to win, is the Republican Women's Group. You guys are the most active, the most persuasive. You guys can make a difference in a very close race. So you guys being here today, listening to me and all the other candidates, willing to help out and put your heart and soul and energy into this is really something we all are very, very grateful for. I want to disagree with Heidi. We would stay here, we could have debated this. I actually think this is an incredibly, incredibly important election. And I say that for a number of reasons. It is a typical election. We've gone through 8 years of so many disappointing things that have happened. And we have a country now where we have a $20 trillion debt. They're paying $80 billion a month that they work for a certain period of time of just paper money and calling it quantum easement. Our debt is going to start creating an inflation that's going to devalue the dollar, and all of you that are living off fixed income and think you can continue to buy what you're buying now, you're going to have one of the horrible awakening when that happens. We have I'm not going through all the stuff, the things that Obama has done and the slowest economic recovery. And now we have somebody who's going to run for office, and her vision of where she wants to take us here in this country is contrary to everything that's made our country so great and wonderful. We wouldn't know exactly what her vision was because she says something differently when she's talking to the public, as she says privately when she's talking to her confidants. And that itself is disappointing enough because you can't trust what she says. But she opened up to some of these leaked emails. She wants to have an open borders here. Imagine what this country would be like if we had anybody come in and out that wanted to and take advantage of all of the incredible subsidies that we provide people that live in our country legally. She wants open borders. She wants free trade, not just free trade, completely open trade without any restrictions. We're the greatest world economic force, and we're the greatest economic force in the entire world, and we're going to have free trade with everybody where we don't dictate what the terms and conditions are going to be, even though we have the most leverage. She wants to pass a tax increase that will be the largest tax increase in our country's history at a time that we have the slowest economic recovery since the recession, of the Great Depression. Imagine what that's going to do to our recovery. We can go on and on and on, but the vision that she has for our country is not the vision that we can sustain another 4 years for. And I think it's very important that we do everything we can to make sure that she's not elected president. And that's why you guys sit in this room today. You have such an incredible potential impact on what happens politically all around the country. There is no place around the entire country that has the ability to create the impact you guys have sitting here in this room today. Not only can you make a big, significant difference in who becomes president, because Nevada is one of the battleground states and Trump needs to win the state to win the presidency, but you got a chance to determine who's going to control the U.S. Senate. Almost every place you go, anything you read, you hear that if the Democrats lose this seat to Joe Heck, Harry Reid's seat to Joe Heck, they cannot take control of the Senate. So you have a chance to determine control of the Senate, and quite honestly, in my district, the Democrats have stated over and over again they can't take control of Congress if they don't win seats without a CP3. So all of you in this room can make a difference in any one of those major impacts, and that's again why I'm so thankful that you guys are here today and that you're active involved. I'd like to take a few minutes talking about my race, then I'll take any questions you guys have. I've watched a lot of different political campaigns, been involved in some. I've never seen anything like the one I'm involved in now. My opponent, I'm talking about at a big level. I've seen this in smaller races, but not at a major race. My opponent has determined her strategy is she's just going to go into hiding. She's going to be seen as little as possible. She's not going to take any positions that are controversial or tough decisions dealing with issues, and not even run basically very little TV ads to talk about her, and they're just going to focus all their attention. to create an image of me, a character assassination of me, that will, they hope, will turn voters off enough that they'll vote against me no matter who I'm running against. So I'm really not running against. In fact, let me ask, how many of you know the name of my opponent? Raise your hand if you know the name of her. How many of you don't know the name of her? Now, I mean, it's almost unheard of in the congressional races. Who are particular political active people, and I don't know her name either, I don't mention it. I swear I go places and I go, who are you running against? I don't know. She doesn't want to make an effort to get her name out there and talk about what she stands for, then I certainly should help. And the reason I say that is, first of all, have you ever heard of a candidate not putting up on a website an issue page for 9 months? She's only in the race 10 and a half months. It took her 9 months to put an issue page up, and the issue page is almost as general as you can get, where she doesn't have to answer anything tough. She doesn't. I've never been in a campaign before in the general election. I've only seen her twice. Once was at the Boulder City Parade, and the other was coming off the Jennifer Alston show. She didn't have a show anymore, so if that didn't happen, I've probably only seen her once in the entire race. Usually, you're going out and you're seeing each other, and you're talking about issues and what matters most to the public. On the other side, my campaign is trying to focus on what we think is really, really important for the direction of our country. Places we go, almost everywhere people we talk to, there's three things that are at the forefront of every one of their discussions. The first and foremost is a lack of economic recovery. The fact that after 7 years, or almost 8 full years now, and incurring another $8 trillion in debt, printing $80 billion a month in fiat money, and all the things have done, we have the first time in one president's 8-year term that we haven't had 3% or more GDP in a quarter, and in fact it's going down right now. There's reasons why our economic machine of the United States of America isn't going full throttle, and I think it's very clear. You talk to any business out there and they tell you that we have incredibly excessive regulations that are strengthening the ability of businesses to grow and expand or even start up. We need to have regulations. Everybody would agree. Reasonable regulations. The effect those regulations have on the business, to the benefit it has to the people and the environment that they're to impose. If there's not a significant difference, you shouldn't be passed those regulations. But this administration has created the most burdensome regulations in the history of our country, and it's taking effect on businesses. The second thing is we need a fair tax system. It's not fair that we have some of the most powerful, wealthy corporations in the world that don't pay any federal income tax because they hide the money in lock boxes or security boxes overseas in a small island, while every other small business corporation here in the United States is paying the highest tax rate in the whole country. We need to get a fair tax system. And the third thing is this Dodd-Frank bill that was passed. It's almost laughable to see some of the solutions, if it wasn't so painful, to see some of the solutions that our legislators do in Washington, D.C., which argue that this is the purpose for it, but having the exact opposite effect. Many of you will remember that in 2007, when the financial crisis came, there were a lot of people that said, hey, these banks are too big to fail, we need to bail them out. That in itself was a bad move, but they said the banks are too big to fail, so we have to bail them out. So you know what they do? They passed the Dodd-Frank bill, which creates all these regulations and costs and burdens on banks, that it ran out all the smaller banks, the vast majority of the smaller banks. A lot of community banks have gone out of business or have sold to bigger banks. So now we have fewer banks that are too big to fail, and we're more susceptible to the same problem that they were trying to solve, all because of the Dodd-Frank bill. We work on those three things. We're going to see an economic recovery here in the United States, and I hope to be a part of that. Second thing, virtually everyone you talk to is about national security and trying to protect our citizens here and abroad against the terrorism that's happening all around the world. We haven't had one in the last few weeks, so it sort of gets off the front burner. But most everybody understands that the Las Vegas particularly is very susceptible to a terrorist act. That if any terrorist act happened on the Strip, it could virtually shut down the whole economy. I'm scared to let my kids go to the mall. I mean, you see it all the time, the different things that are happening in malls, and I'm scared to have one of my kids go there. That's not a way that the world's strongest power should be. People live in fear of something like this happening. We need to take the fight to ISIS and the terrorists overseas and not allow them to come here in our country. And the third thing, and I think this is the reason why you saw the rise in Donald Trump and the rise in Bernie Sanders, is everybody's tired of the dysfunction of Washington, D.C. They see politicians that go To Washington, D.C. You have elected politicians, they go out and they campaign, they say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, and they go back to Washington, D.C. and do something completely different. And they do it because they want to be emboldened to the special interest groups and all the power people so they can keep their jobs, and they lose focus of why they're really there. They're there to serve the people of their district. They're there to do what's best for you. This is what I'm going to promise you if I get elected, and I think most of you that know me would agree with these characteristics. If I get elected, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to fight, never give up. I'm going to keep hammering away, try to make a difference for the type of issues we talked about. Many of you know that I've taken a few lumps here or there in the past few years, but those lumps don't keep me down. My dad had a football coach that he was very close with, and he said, a loss is a loss, it's a temporary setback until you quit trying. And that, I've always took that to heart. The second thing is, my father always said the worst thing you can be in life is a phony. He said, if you're phony, how can you, no matter what success, money, business, or anything else, how can you feel good about yourself if you can't even feel good about that you've done what you really truly believe in? So I'm going to go back to Washington, D.C., and everything I promised you, I'm going to go back there and fight for those in Washington, D.C. You're not going to see me being influenced by any of the dysfunction of Washington, D.C. So there's one other thing, and I can't even remember what it is now. I'm all done with my speech and figured I might as well just take questions from all of you. So anybody else have any questions? I'd like to answer them. I've spoken here several times, so many of you know my background personally. Does anybody have any questions?
Programs that give money away and criticize you. Wouldn't you get elected again?
I think that's what I was talking about, not being a phony and fighting for what you believe in. That's the characteristic that my father had thought so much of. Of course, I'm going to do that. I'm running for office for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is I want to be able to make a substantial impact on the people's lives that I represent. Jackie Robinson once stated that the true value, the only true measure of one person's life is the positive impact you have on other individuals. And that's why you should be running for office, and that's why I run for office. So I'm not running for office because the media or special interests want me to do something. I hope that you guys feel when I'm done serving you that I did the best I possibly could. I was honest, I was a fighter, and you were proud to have me as your congressperson. I'm all in favor of term limits. I even signed that pledge for term limits. Look, we have a serious problem in Washington, D.C., and one of it is that people that get back there are just raised there. And with the fact that you have many of the congressional districts, safe seats for whichever party they're in, they're really not accountable to anybody except the party and the special interest groups that are paying for them. So I'm in favor of term limits. I want to talk, somebody had asked me before, they didn't raise a question, and I'd have been embarrassed by it, but I have no problem answering these things, but I think it's probably a positive thing. I've actually had friends of mine call me up and they'll say, hey, can you give me the answers to these things they're attacking you on TV? We know they're not true, so that we can respond to our associates and friends. So many of you may have had people ask you, and I figure if you guys know the true answers, hopefully you get it out there enough and be able to educate the voters a little bit different. I will start off by saying this. When you can only talk negatively about your opponent and you can't say anything positive about yourself, what does that foretell as you as a representative of a district? You have nothing to give. You only have stuff to attack people with. So that should be the first warning sign when you see my opponent, besides the fact that she said she created apps before there were apps. There hasn't been a whole lot of other things that you mentioned. Look, there's three things they're attacking on, and I'll go through them. I think the first one is everybody asked about the $17 million judgment. As many of you know, living through this recession here in Las Vegas, anybody in real estate got hit even worse than an average person. You guys all know where an average person got hit from that recession. My family and I were part of 11 people that, had a piece of property that we borrowed money from a bank, lend it to a developer. The developer was supposed to develop property, and instead of developing property, he gave the money back, or a portion of the money back to the bank to pay off the loan he was defaulting on. And then he filed bankruptcy and left us holding the bag. We sued the bank. The FDIC takes the bank over, claiming that they committed fraudulent lending practices or risky lending practices, and then they came after us. We tried to negotiate a settlement. The FDIC wouldn't go for it, so they forced us into bankruptcy, and I had to file bankruptcy. Now again, the TV ads, they run a complete lie. The media knows it, and no one called them out on it. And, when the FDIC is stuck and not getting paid from somebody sue like us, they use the money they get from banks who pay into an insurance fund for those instances. Taxpayers don't pay any of the money. You see all these ads, Danny Tarkanian left the taxpayer, told him the bill for $17 million. Right. That's not true. And if the FDIC's insurance fund doesn't, it's paid by the banks. Who should be responsible for paying this debt but the bank that worked in cahoots with the developer to get him to pay back the loan he's defaulting on? So again, it's a false statement. The television stations know about it. They shouldn't be running that ad. It's very disappointing. In fact, in the Review Journal, Steve Sebelius originally wrote that taxpayers paid the $17 million, got stuck with the bag. So we pointed out to Steve Sebelius that's not true. Here's the statute. We pointed out to him. So he wrote a retraction in the newspaper saying he's wrong. Taxpayers don't pay it. It's the insurance fund by the banks. We gave that to the TV stations. The TV stations should have took it down, but that's their just negligence and their responsibility.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I was thoroughly impressed with the way he dug that hole out in the desert. A great garden.
Exactly, but the reason that is I had to dig a really deep hole because I had all those bags. Remember the first ad I had? Yeah. So all those big bags they had. In fact, the first ad they had with me dropping all those bags off, it's people said, "You don't have any bags like that. All you have is those plastic bags you take with you on trips." So that's the first one. Again, I mean, if you want to talk about when we have people that call, that's the question they have the most. What happened there? And when you explain to them that, listen, we got involved in a bad real estate investment with the guys that defrauded us with the bank. We got stuck over the bag. We had to pay it off. I had to pay $525,000 in bankruptcy court to pay it off. I cashed in $200,000 of life insurance, my retirement plan, which isn't even attachable in bankruptcy court. That was money that I was able to keep, but I wanted to get the debt over right away and move on with my life, so I paid it off. I cashed it in. Look, you didn't hear me crying and complain about it. We learned a lesson. It's not going to happen again. And quite honestly, all we've done is I was introduced about a successful commercial developer. We have a piece of property next to the San Martin Hospital in Cimarron, Warm Springs. Going to be 6 buildings. We have 3 up right now, over 100,000 square feet. We got our first tenant in August of 2007, right when the recession hit. Most people, every building around me was taken over by the bank. We're the only ones that survived. We stayed around, and just about a year ago now, of this time, a year ago, we finally got permanent financing. We saved that property. And that property is going to be the security for not only my family, but my sisters and brothers, and also my mother. It was a great thing that we were able to accomplish and get done, but nobody talks about that. They only want to hear about the negative stuff. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is the property taxes. And of the most ridiculous one, this one is the most ridiculous. I was a minority owner of different pieces of property 20 to 30 years ago. 20 to 30 years ago is when this happened. As a minority owner, you don't get the property tax bill. It goes to the majority owner. You guys understand now? Well, anyways, on all but one occasion, the majority, I don't know how many times it happened, 4 or 5 times. On all but one occasion, the majority owner would get the property taxes and he was late paying it, so he was charged a few $100s in fine. Now you look at it, it acts like I'm the one that got the notice of the payment, and I did. I was a minority owner on all but one occasion. And it says that they had to pay tens of thousands of dollars in fines and property taxes. Well, the property taxes were tens of thousands of dollars. The fines were only a couple $100. And it happened 20 to 30 years ago. And it was paid off within just a short period of time. It's the most benign thing, but again, it was something that was used in 2012 by Stephen Horsford, and the Democrat Party felt that that was something that would play well, so they didn't run that ad. The third thing is the one that frustrates me the most, and it frustrates me the most because of the lack of media coverage announcing this ad, this attack. The ad basically claims I was involved in some type of telemarketing fraud as a lawyer. Now, look, they used this attack against me in 2004. I sued the guy who used it, and I won a defamation lawsuit on him, which means, and not only that, but every jury, I think there was 12 jurors, there was 4 alternates, all 16 people said I was defamed by these attacks, claiming I had any involvement in telemarketing fraud. In fact, they had to pay me $180,000. Now, my attorneys took $160,000 of it, but and that's true. But at least I thought we put that thing issue to bed. How can they run an ad now using the one they got on TV right now, where they say I created these fraudulent companies, is exactly the same charge I won the defamation lawsuit on. Now, one television station has pulled down the ad even though they know that I won a defamation lawsuit. Now, one media person has written an article, newspaper person, stating that there was I won the defamation lawsuit, and the only way I could have won that is if not only it was false, but the person who did it had knowledge or reckless disregard that it was false. So it's even past the point of false. So they run this ad. And again, you know how long ago this was? This was back in 1998 is when the guys got arrested for telemarketing fraud. So you're looking at 18 years ago. You want to hear something even funnier? If it wasn't so painful? I left the practice of law in 1995. I formed a bunch of corporations when I was working as a lawyer from 1998 to 1995. I left, as many of you know my career, I left in 1995 to go coach basketball with my father in Fresno. So I didn't practice law from 1995 to 2002. From what I understand, the guys who got arrested for telemarketing fraud was in 1998. I wasn't even in the state of Nevada at the time. I wasn't practicing law at the time. And all of a sudden, 18 years later, these people run out. You know what they're doing? They're trying to scare senior citizens. That's what that ad is for. They're trying to scare senior citizens and hope that they won't vote for me. Anyway, so those are the 3 things. They're really benign when you understand them, but they can certainly have an effect on people that don't know you. So if any of you guys have people that want to ask about them, you can address it. Now, coming over here today, incidentally, I had one of my longtime friends, known him since I was 11 years old, and he calls me up and says, Danny, I was talking to another mutual friend of ours. You got to get on TV, run a television ad, and explain all this stuff away. I said, you know how much money a television ad costs? $250,000. I said, are you going to run the ad for me? He got very quiet after that. And I said, the problem is once you start defending yourself on these attacks, and it's not Rosen that's running these attacks. Oh, I'm sorry. I said it in my phone. Not my opponent that makes these attacks. It's the BCCC, which is a national party. They have unlimited money. They are going to spend $6 million on these ads. I think they spent close to 4 already. They're going to spend up to $6 million. Now, I don't have the bandwidth to fight that. And I don't want to be the defense. I want to talk about the issues that matter most to CRS. I've talked about community service and what my family and I have done within this community, which I think is important. That was my first ad. Then I had a lady talk about knowing me and testimony on what kind of person I am, knowing they were attacking me. And the third ad, we're talking about how Obamacare is a mess. We got to get rid of it. I'm going to fix it. So you see, I'm talking about things that matter most to the public. I'm not talking about all this negative stuff. And I don't want to waste hard-earned money that I get raising money from people. If Stevenson says, well, you guys are giving me so much, you want me to raise the money on trying to respond to these things, or you want me to stay on the mess? Absolutely. So anyways, I think it's working. We did 3 weeks ago, we did a poll, and we were ahead outside the margin of error. I should have told numbers out now, but we were ahead by 5 percentage points. We released it already, it was in the public. We're ahead by 5 percentage points, and this was 4 weeks ago. So we did a new poll a week ago. So there was 3 weeks in between, and in those 3 weeks, they attacked Trump on the tape issue and everything else, and everybody was feeling that Trump was going to bring the ticket down. But we did a poll, we did drop 1 point, which filled up the same amount. Actually, Trump went from 3 points up in my district to 5 points up in my district after they attacked him on all that stuff. So their attacks on me, now again, polls on me, they have a margin of error, not completely accurate. You can't say it's not having any effect. But they spent, as I mentioned, close to $4 million on attack pieces, at least in the last 3 weeks that we saw. There wasn't a significant drop. We feel pretty good about where we're at this point if we just don't let up. I think the Democrats are very concerned with where they're at because they won't run anything positive on their candidate. It's all negative on me. If they were really had something to give, they would be talking about their person. So anyways, I feel good about where we're at the race. Again, I need you guys' help like Joe Heck does, like Donald Trump does. We need to get voters to the poll. It's a turnout that's going to make the difference. I think the biggest risk I have in this race is that there is a decrease in enthusiasm by the Republican voters or by voters that are going to vote for the Republican Party candidates. And we just don't get in the polls and we end up losing because of that. And I need you guys out there to make sure that doesn't happen. I think when you see these articles written by all these different news magazines and newspapers and in the media where they're trying to make it look like the race is over for Trump, they just want to take your enthusiasm away. They want to take the heart out of it so you don't come out, and then it'll drop on everybody. So we're counting you guys not to let that happen. Can we count you guys? Does anybody else have any other questions? If not, we're going to let the Stevensons catch the plane and go see the Fighting Tigers take on Ole Miss, huh? I'm a big college football fan. I love college football. There's nothing better than the SEC. I wish I would go to that game.
No. Do not like the SEC. Sorry.
What's that?
Do not like the
You don't like the
SEC.
SEC?
I'm Pac-12.
Well, you know what? Maybe someday with that new stadium that Heidi was ripping with that new stadium, maybe you know you'll get a top 5 conference, power conference, be able to compete with them also. Okay, that's about it. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.